Welcome back. Today, we have another special episode that I'll forever hold close to my heart. You will hear from a motivating and vitalizing Scarborough girl turned woman. She's real, she's raw, and I am honored to not only know this woman, but I was fortunate enough to receive her love and support over the course of my life, as she was the big sister I never had. As a woman who carries herself with modesty and awareness, she managed to complete her undergraduate program in nursing at Ryerson University, now known as Toronto Metropolitan University. Excel in the corporate world despite burnout, depression, anxiety, and suicide ideations. Currently, she is an outstanding associate. This role allows her to live a balanced and healthy life as a loving wife and mother of 2 kids. So, without further ado, let's hear from one of the most amazing people I know, Jacqueline Cummings. Thank you so much for joining us on the Lemon Said podcast. We're going to start with a few rapid fire questions. Book or podcast?
Podcast.
Yeah. Score 1. Have you ever pulled a prank on someone?
Yes.
Probably your brother.
Probably.
Fresh food or fried food?
Fresh food.
Fresh food, okay. Money or happiness?
Happiness.
Awesome. When life throws you lemons?
You make lemonade.
Yeah. So, to that, I say we have a toast. What is your favorite hobby, or what are you most passionate about?
I'm most passionate about exercising, being active. I make that as part of my self-care throughout my day. It's time to myself. I'm currently working towards a 42K marathon.
Good for you.
And I just ran my first 13K nonstop last Sunday.
Oh, congratulations.
And I only ran up to 5K ever. And
before that, you mean?
Before that. And, kind of challenged myself over the weekend and did 13K and was quite ambitious and said, let's do a marathon. I'm like, okay.
Good for you.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
This is the year of the yes for me.
With regards to some of the challenges that shaped who you are today, is there any specific moment or maybe more than one, but is there any specific challenge that you can look back on that it was kind of a turning point in your life and you're like, something's got to change?
There are a few, but they all kind of stem back to my relationship with my father. So, growing up in a household where my parents were divorced was certainly challenging. Growing up having to kind of be there to support my mother, be there to be the quote unquote parent for my brother. There are certainly a lot of challenges that were pivotal points in my growth, but it ultimately does stem back to when my childhood years when my parents were divorced. Yeah.
Right. And how old were you when your parents initially divorced?
To be honest, I can't remember. I want to say in around 16, but I could be wrong. But
so
teen years, yeah.
Okay, so you were probably in high school.
Yeah, high school.
Going on to university
Exactly.
years. Okay.
Yeah.
And how has that impacted, I guess, the trajectory of the rest of your life up until now?
Yeah, I would probably say, trying to kind of one-up myself, if that makes any sense.
Totally does, at least with me.
Yeah, it's one thing to get that job, and then a few years pass, and you're like, okay, I want the next better job. And then what's the next better thing over that? And, you're always pushing for more. And I think, that mindset is great to a point. And then you end up burning out.
I know this is a sensitive topic, and I want to go into it because I think it will inspire a lot of people in terms of how you overcame it. But you spoke a little bit about burnout. So I want to go a little bit into burnout and what impact that has had on you emotionally, physically, and mentally in terms of your mental health.
Yeah. Initially, in my experience, I kind of was pointing the blame at the job. But I kind of had to take ownership on that because I too contributed to that by, a lot of the expectations and the goals and the things that I had to do, I put that all on myself. So I take ownership on that aspect. But certainly the job did play a huge contributor in terms of stress for sure. Mm-hmm. It's been certainly challenging because the job or that experience, brought me to a place where I've never been before.
Right.
And so it kind of brought me to, an area that encompassed anxiety, depression, and suicide. And so, I'm an open book about it now. In the beginning, I was quite embarrassed about it because I would have never thought that someone like me would have gotten into that situation. And so when I found myself there, I was quickly trying to find myself out of it and trying to fight it on my own. And it was certainly hard because I've been able to fight things before on my own, but this time I wasn't able to. The first time my husband realized that I was going through a tough time, he kind of suggested that I, admit myself to the hospital. And as much as I didn't want to, it kind of was evident that I needed to. And so I admitted myself in, and ended up having to stay there overnight. And so when I got admitted, they put me into the psychiatric intensive care unit, which is basically a room that's pretty much isolated from, the main ward. And in that unit is where you have other individuals that are in this one room all on its own. It's almost like a jail cell.
Oh, wow.
So you walk in and there's a bed with restraints and a window and the littlest light. And at least the room I was in, you could peer out into the outside world. And then you had another window where your nurses and whoever can kind of peer into your room to see that you're safe. And my nurse at the time, I remember him, don't remember his name, but he basically, explained, gave me his name, explained, how he's going to help during the time that he's with me. And the time that we got to know each other was very short. He kind of said to me, "You don't belong here." He's like, I'm going to work to it. By the end of my shift, I'm going to get you into the step down unit, which is the main ward for the mental health ward. And so as he kept to his word, he got me a room. And so I was able to kind of go to the step down unit, but I had to stay overnight. So they gave me medication and they were monitoring me overnight. And then I met my psychiatrist the next day who kind of, questioned what brought me in, kind of get an understanding of, where I am at mentally. And she encouraged me to stay. And I had said, no, I'm not staying in here. I don't belong. So she gave me some time off. I was on sick leave for, I think it was 3 weeks. And then when the third week came, almost towards the end, I started panicking. And I think it was approaching my 40th birthday. And I was tossing and turning and I started getting really fidgety, and my husband, everyone in the family could notice a difference in me. And I just made the decision that I needed to just admit myself again, give myself the time to kind of really heal, get the help that I really needed. And so we called my psychiatrist and there was a bed that opened up. And the day after my 40th birthday, I went in and admitted myself to the hospital. So I was there for, I think, 8 or 9 days. Not the way that I wanted to spend my 40th birthday. But, it was certainly hard to kind of leave my kids for that long. Mm-hmm. We didn't really explain to them at that moment, like, where I was going. we just said that I'm going to get help to be happy again.
Good on you just for taking that step, because it's not easy. And a lot of people don't get that help that they need. To your point, some people feel embarrassed, ashamed. Some people just don't want to admit that something's even wrong. So I'm curious for you, how did you really know when something was wrong for you?
Yeah.
When did you hit that limit for yourself?
When I didn't want to get out of bed, when I didn't want to exercise, 100%. That was a red flag for me. Even just responding to people in messages, just wanting to go out. Like I literally just wanted to stay home and, pull over the covers over my body. My husband would never let it happen. He'd always say, it's time to get up. Like he knew something was up, something was wrong, but really didn't know how to kind of identify it until like our friend who is a social worker kind of spoke to him about it, and kind of we brought things to light. And it wasn't until he became aware of the suicidal ideations that he said, you know what, it's time to get some help.
And do you feel that it was the initially depression and anxiety that contributed to the suicidal ideations?
It was, I would say yes, a combination of both, but more so anxiety. My anxiety levels were through the roof, and I've been able to handle levels of anxiety before, but this just felt 10 times worse.
What was the difference for you?
It just felt like you have these butterflies in your stomach, and it's like you're writing an exam every day. Like for me, that's what it felt like. And it just, the anxiety would never go away. I would try to fall asleep and I couldn't, because I'm constantly thinking of work. Afraid that I'm going to get let go, get fired, what people are going to think about me. And so, at the end of the day, I've learned now, I don't care what people think about me. Right. I don't care. Like, this is who I am. Take me for who I am. And
you can just, all you can do is be your best self every day.
Exactly. And that was my point, because at the end of the day, if they can't see your worth, then it's not worth both of your time. And so in saying that, I'm just going to be transparent that I made the decision on my own to discontinue the medication, which this week I hit a low. So, So I stopped taking medication on my own decision as of the beginning of this year, January of this year, in hopes that I would lose the weight. And I haven't been losing the weight. Aside from eating healthy, exercising, what have you. And I did have a little bit of a suicidal passing thought. It wasn't a suicidal attempt in any regards, but it kind of freaked me out, because I felt that all my progress up until now has gone away.
Right.
And my friend had said, it's just an event. It doesn't mean that you're back to square one.
Right.
But she's like, you need to go back on your meds. So started taking my meds again 2 days ago. And so we'll see.
How are you feeling on your meds now?
To be honest, I don't see a difference. I don't know. I don't feel a difference. I don't know what it's doing inside me chemically. I'm sure it's doing what it needs to do. But, I'm still going on my regular way. I'm waking up, doing the exercise. I'm going to work. I'm happy. Not so... Well, I promised my husband, I promised my family, my friends that I'd still maintain it, which, at first I was reluctant to, but, it's the safest thing to do for now.
I do want to break the stigma about medication for individuals. Certainly there are things that change you, such as body weight or how you see yourself and, just your confidence. But when you look at the fact that it's life-changing, life-saving even, how do you view medication? And is it, other than the promise that you make to your friends and your family, is it worth it for you?
God is working his wonders right now, because your comment is resonating with me. My husband said to me, is you not taking the medication worth your life and not seeing us, and not seeing your children, myself? And, of course I had to say that, no, they are worth it. They are 100% worth it. And so he, kind of put me on the spot with love, of course. He said, these are the decisions that he said, the decisions that you decided when you didn't want to take the medication was certainly something you should have had. Like, I should have had the discussion with him. Fine. Part of the reason why I probably didn't tell them is because I knew he was going to say, no, you're taking them. But, at the end of the day, it was kind of a selfish decision, right? I made the decision on my own, not realizing the possible impact it could have on the others, on my family and others in my life. So, stemming back to your question, not really sure how to answer that.
I think you just did. And is it worth not seeing your family? And you're saying no.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You do make that choice every day. Do I want to wake up tomorrow?
Yeah.
Do I want to be happy? Do I want to be stable?
Yeah.
Do I want to be there for my kids? And I think those are the answers that are really easy for you to find when you subtract that it's medication that's helping you accomplish all of those things.
Yeah. It's one of those battles, right? You don't want to take it, but there are positives to taking it. So,
Absolutely.
It's like one of those things where you just have to kind of compromise, I think, in as my situation, at least. And you know what, if it just, again, like you said, if it means me waking up tomorrow, being able to see my family, I'll do it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I actually, just for context for our listeners, when you did start taking medication, at that point, were you already having suicidal attempts prior to, or did you have any after on medication as well?
So prior to, yes, I had 4 attempts before medication. And the last attempt was where I tried to, kill myself in front of my mother. That was a really hard time for her. And I regret that she had to see that. And the other time where I came home and I walked up into my room and I tried to kill myself with a vacuum cord. So, just thinking back, could I have done things differently? I'm sure I could have. But when you're going through the emotions and the thoughts of, everything associated with anxiety, depression, and you just feel like suicide is just going to solve everything, I think it's important that you just reach out to anyone, because if it wasn't for my husband, my friends, my family, I truly believe I wouldn't be here. And as many times that as I tried to, go through with the thought, they pushed me through, right past through that thought, and were there to kind of hold my hand and push me through. So even up until today, people are constantly checking up on me, which is really nice. And it makes you realize, the people that really do love you in your life, because it's not that you need everyone's phone call, it's just someone checking in and saying, how are things going? And I think that's important. That's an important message that everyone tries to say, especially around, mental health, is just to check on your loved ones, because you never know.
Right. I think it's really important that you just mentioned that, because, earlier we were talking about tangible medication.
Yeah.
But then there's also this other side of medication, which is your support system, your network.
Yeah.
And I feel like that played an even bigger role in your life and in the episodes that you've had, because had it not been for your friends or your family, how do you get to a point where you're admitting yourself to the hospital?
Yep.
You wouldn't be able to do that without them. How do you get to a point where you're on your medication or staying on your medication? Yep. That's also the support of your family.
100%.
So I want to talk a little bit more about the role that they played. How helpful has it been for you to have them in your corner, and do you feel safe having them around?
Yep, 100%. It's my husband, has been my rock from the beginning. And, it's certainly been challenging for him to have to be strong for me, for the kids, and for himself, because, trying to do that, wear those hats while I was in the hospital was certainly hard. Grateful for family around. We had my mother-in-law come to stay, help certain nights, help with dinner, help with the kids. My sister-in-law came. Everyone chipped in, and that's the value of family.